Okay, so we're going to return to our where we left off of our previous live stream. So what we want to do next, in the date column, we're going to insert a date. Yeah. Let's start with 2020. We'll use 1/1/2020 for January the 20th, 2020. Now we're going to right click on that. Or rather, let's do it this way. We'll highlight it. We'll come up to format option, the format option on the menu. And we're going to select number. Okay, this basically gives us a number of options that are available, no pun intended. Selecting number in the format option gives us several options on how we would like to format our numbers. I'm going to use date. We have date, and we also have a date and time option. It says date time, and it'll show you the date and the time. For the purposes of this video, we're just going to select date. Now, if you notice, nothing really changed, and that is because I used the same formatting that Google Sheets would have used had I not typed out the date. Okay, so by formatting it, that basically means if I were to erase this and come back and then say type in Jan 1 2020 and hit enter, because I formatted this cell, Google Sheets automatically falls back to the formatting of 1/1/2020. So formatting is a way to basically make sure that whatever information gets entered into those cells follow that particular formatting that you've selected. Okay, we also want to, now we're going to go over to the amount column. In the amount column, we're going to enter a number. And I'm going to use 100. And just like we did with the date column, we're going to format this cell. Highlight it, come up to format, come back to number. This time we're not dealing with the date, we're dealing with amounts. Now for the purposes of this spreadsheet, we are going to use a dollar amount, which is reflected as currency. And we're going to do currency rounded, which essentially means there won't be any decimal points shown. Okay, if we use currency, and in this example you can see they have $1,000.12. If we were to select currency here and insert a dollar amount that had a decimal point to reflect cents, then the entire figure would be shown. Dollars first, decimal point followed by cents. But if you use currency rounded, Google Sheets will basically eliminate everything after the decimal point, including the decimal point itself. So we're going to select currency rounded, and you'll notice my $100, my 100 entry now has a dollar sign in front of it because I formatted this cell to be a currency. Okay. All right, so now we have our header row, and we have our row that has some data in it. And that data is the name of the item, the date, and we can say that's the date the item was created or added, and there's an amount, is the value of this item. So there's a whole lot we can do in terms of the other features that I like to show you if we only have one row of data. So we're going to create other rows of data. Okay, now I could simply just start typing out a new set of information on row number 3. I could just start typing it out. In fact, I'm going to do it both ways. This is my new item. Again, for the purposes of this demonstration, we want to use a different date. Okay, so I'm going to do two. I'm actually going to do 1/1/2021. And this time I'm going to do $200. Okay, now if you notice, I had to type out the date format, and I also had to type out the current, the amount in numbers. It did not automatically convert to dollar amount, and we don't know whether the date formatting would have worked or not because I typed it out in the format that Google Sheets would use. So I'm going to show you something else here. Actually, this time, instead of, now that I've typed all that information in, I'm going to delete this row. And I'm going to show you another way to populate information into a Google Sheet. And to delete a row, you simply highlight the row by clicking on it. You right click. One of the options is delete row. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Select that. The row has been deleted. Now obviously the 3 is still here because Google Sheets is always going to have these rows numbered consecutively. But the data is what actually got deleted. So hey, I want to copy a row of information. Whenever you have a situation where you want to do that, copy a row of information. Maybe you're doing a demonstration. Maybe you want to just copy a row because your formatting is already there. And then after the fact, you want to go in and just make the changes to that specific row. But the formatting will be the same and some of the information will be the same. You simply highlight the row, come down to the lower right hand corner, and I realize that my mouse pointer may not be being displayed in the stream. That's okay. You can tell by the fact that this box is highlighted that that is the box that I've selected, or the cell rather. The lower right hand corner of that cell, there's a blue dot. You basically put your mouse cursor right over top of that dot, and you left click and drag. And you should be able to see there's a dashed dotted line now surrounding cell number 3A. And once that effect happens, you simply let go. Google Sheets has now copied word for word every bit of data that was in the first cell of data, which is 2A, right? That's how you can identify your cells. You look at the row number, and then you look at the column letter. Those two things together make up the location of your data. So 2A is the coordinates, if you will, of this cell. Well, guess what? Now row 3A is identical because I did the click and drag motion, which sends instructions to Google Sheets to copy all of this information from the cell that is highlighted into the cell that I've highlighted by dragging. We're going to do it again. This time I'm going to go from 3A to 4A. You highlight, you come down to the lower right hand corner where you have the blue dot, you press it, click and drag downward, and boom, let go. And now I've copied the contents from cell 2A here to cell 3A and to cell 4A. Now I'm going to show you another way to do it. If you want to undo anything you've ever done in a Google Sheet, you don't have to delete this. For example, now I want to delete this because I'm going to show you another way to do it. But you don't have to highlight it and erase the information. No, you simply come up here to your menu. You'll find the very first item on the menu, or the secondary menu. This is the primary menu. Starts with the word file. The secondary menu starts with this arrow facing toward the left. If you highlight that arrow, you see the word undo, and it means just what it says. You click it, and the last action that you took will be undone. And I could do this again, and then again if I wanted to, and I could keep going for as many of these actions that are stored, and they would all be undone. But guess what? It works in the opposite fashion as well. If I want to redo anything that I had done previously, hit the redo button, and there's the same effect. Okay, but for now I want to keep the data in cell 3A, and I'm going to show you another way to do a copy. Another way to do a copy is simply highlight the text, right click, select copy, come to the cell where you want that information to go. Maybe it's over here, right click and select paste, and there's that same exact information in a new cell. Okay, so I've shown you two different ways of copying and pasting data from one cell to another. All right, so when we want to bring the date and the amount down to cell 3. We want to row 3. We want to have information in the date column and the amount column for cell 3. So we're going to use the click and drag method. And we're going to use the click and drag method, and again for the amount column. Now you'll notice something happened here with the date. When we use the click and drag method from column, or from row 2 column B, which is here, and we dragged it down to row 3 column B, you'll notice the date changed. This date was 1-1. This date was 1-2, and that is because by default, Google Sheets automatically draws the conclusion that if you're copying dates, then you don't want all of these dates to be the same. So they basically tally them up in a consecutive order, so that automatically for you. So if I were to click and drag, and let's say I'm going to just take this all the way out to column 16 just for the sake of this example. When I let this when I let the button go on the mouse, what's going to happen is Google's going to automatically tally the date, use its logic to determine the date out 15 days. And don't get confused, because we're on row 16, you may be saying to yourself, why is this only going out to 115 and not 116? Well, something to always keep in mind when you're working with Google Sheets is that the first row was used as a header. Okay, so that means that everything that happens from a logic perspective when you're adding numbers really starts from row 2, and so you have to subtract 1. If you subtract 1 from 16, you get 15. Okay, so this is working as it should. Now we're going to get rid of that by clicking the undo button, because we don't want that. We are going to go in, however, and change. Now what I did, one of the other reasons why formatting a cell comes in handy is because Google will treat it like a date. And one of the benefits of treating information like a date is when you double click on the cell, Google will present you with a calendar, making it much easier for you to change a date. So one of the things I want to do is I want to make this January the 1st, but 2021 instead of 2022. So I simply click on the arrows in the calendar that have been provided to me by Google until I can see January 2021. Select the number 1, and just like that, the date's been updated. Okay, it's a lot quicker when you have a calendar that you can just select dates from and then have those dates passed in than it is to type it out. We also want to change the amount. So for the amount, simply going to click in to the spreadsheet. I'm going to change that from 100 to 200, and because it's formatted as a dollar amount or a currency, a rounded currency, or currency rounded, to use a specific term shown in the application, I didn't have to add the dollar sign. It's automatically added for me. And last but not least, this time I'm going to add a third row of data, and this time I'm going to show you yet another way to populate data. I'm going to select the entire row. I'm going to select copy. I am then going to select the row where I'd like to send the information to, send a copy of the information to, mind you. I'm going to right click. I'm going to click paste, and just like that, I've now copied all the information. This time I'm going to change the date again by double clicking, just for the purposes of this video, and so that you can see that there are multiple ways to accomplish a goal generally when dealing with any software application, and Google Sheets is no different. I would like to make this, you guessed it, 1/1/2022. Simply change that year from a 2021 to 2022, hit enter, and boom, that's updated. I'm going to change this amount also. I'm going to make that a 3. Okay, so just like that, we've now populated 3 rows of data in our Google Sheet. The names of the items are all the same. Okay, they could all be different, all right, and generally they probably will be in when you're doing this on your own. But since this is a demonstration, we just want you to understand that there's text that is here. It's random text, and it could be any text you wanted in a real life practical situation for your purposes. This is a real life practical demonstration, and so for simplicity we're going to do it this way. So one of the other requests we get a lot is, how do you sum data? How do you sum amounts, or how do you sum numbers? How do you get Google Sheets to add up numbers? All right, so this is fairly simple to do. You simply select the area where you want the sum to be located. Okay, in this case, we're going to skip a row. We're going to come down and tap on row 6, column C. Row 6, column C takes us to this cell. And if you come up to the secondary toolbar, right, you'll see this functions symbol. Okay, and then this function symbol has a little gray icon next to it. It's really hard to see. You click on that little gray icon and you're going to get this long list of functions. All right, now there's a tremendous amount of functions here. They're very robust. Google Sheets is capable of doing a lot of different things with functions. For our purposes though, we're interested in adding up these numbers. So what we want to do is use the function that's called sum. So again, you select your cell where you would like for your sum to go, and you literally click on sum. Now your cell went from being empty to showing you what appears to be an algebra problem. And don't worry, if you're not a big math person, this looks a lot more intimidating than it actually is. I also would like to point out to you that in the sum section, in the function section on the toolbar, whatever information is being shown inside of a cell that is highlighted is also going to be shown here. These are identical, meaning that if you were to type something in here, let's just type a 1, then the 1 will appear here. And we're going to get rid of that 1, because this thing that looks like a linear algebra, you don't have to worry about it. I told you wouldn't have to worry about it, and I meant it. If you understand how functions work in Google Sheets, sure, you could go ahead and start populating information in here and tell this equation which values you'd like to sum. But what I'm going to show you how to do is a quick, simple, concise way of providing that information, which is you simply, while this cell is highlighted, you simply are going to highlight, click, and drag the cells that you would like Google Sheets to sum, and press enter. So in our case, I would like this cell, this cell, and this cell. I'm just simply clicking and dragging to be summed. And if you notice now in cell 6C, it now has information populated in it. You'll also see it here, as I told you earlier, in the functions bar. Okay, same information. C2 colon C4 is now showing. No need to remember all that. All you needed to do is click and drag to capture the cells that contain the amounts that you want to sum and hit enter. And just like that, Google Sheets has summed up the values of 100, 200, 300 to 600. And that is how you auto sum or count amounts in Google Sheets. And let's see how we're doing on time. Okay, we're 20 minutes in. I'm going to end the video here. There will be another video, another live stream later, where we'll get into creating our bar graph. We'll do some sorting, and yeah, we'll see what else comes to mind. If you subscribe to this video, hit the bell button. You'll be notified when the next live takes place. Thank you.